And so it begins. The Iowa caucuses are tomorrow, the opening round of Campaign 2020. So just what are Democratic voters looking for in a presidential candidate? A question our contributor Nicholas Thompson, editor-in-chief of Wired magazine, has been asking.
If you are the Democratic nominee, will you defeat Donald Trump?
Yes.
Yes, I will.
And I'll tell you exactly how. I see this as a unique moment in American history.
I think our democracy is literally at stake here.
We lost an election in 2016, and it was a heartbreaker, but we didn't lose hope.
Most Americans are with us on the issues, and yet we've often struggled to win.
Hi, everybody.
The town halls are wrapping up.
How are you?
And as Iowa Democrats head to the caucuses tomorrow, polls show a majority of Democrats have one thing on their minds: defeating President Trump in November. Even more important than agreement on the issues,
we have an opportunity to send a message.
but just how to defeat Trump is threatening to divide the party.
This president absolutely could win again if we don't have the right approach to challenge him and defeat him.
The leading candidates have roughly split into two camps, and Iowa Democratic voters are split too, between whether they want a candidate who promises fundamental change.
I like more progressive thinking, and I'm really torn on their approaches to health care.
Or one who will just bring politics back to normal.
We really need to be able to balance everything in this country for everyone.
We can cancel all student debt in America.
Progressive Bernie Sanders is slightly leading in Iowa, according to the latest CBS News poll, with fellow progressive Elizabeth Warren in fourth place. For the moderates, former Vice President Joe Biden and former Mayor Pete Buttigieg are clustered behind Sanders, with Senator Amy Klobuchar in fifth place. No other candidate gets more than 1%.
This election matters not for the next 4 years or the next 8 years, but for generations to come. And what that does is it creates opportunity to lay out a different vision.
I think 8 years of Donald Trump will fundamentally change who we are as a country, how we're viewed.
So what I always tell groups of Democrats in whatever state I'm in, we better not screw this up.
So how do you think the Democrats are most likely to screw this up?
First of all, if we put a candidate whose views are so contrary to a lot of people in our country.
The fundamental question for the Democratic Party: if the nominee is a moderate, will progressive voters get on board or sit the election out? Or vice versa, if it's a progressive nominee, will moderates stay home?
All the candidates are trying to appeal to this sense that the country wants to be united. But united for what? United only to defeat Donald Trump, or united for a vision?
Waleed Shahid is the spokesperson for Justice Democrats, a group which helped elect New York progressive Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to Congress.
It's all about motivation. And, we've been told time and time again that the electable candidate is the one who can win, and then the electable candidate, whether it's Al Gore, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, lose.
That's the argument Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have been making.
I believe that health care is a human right, not a privilege.
Filled with details about Medicare for all and increased taxes on the wealthy and corporations.
It's time for a wealth tax.
There are a lot of Democrats who say, I just need the next president to calm things down, make life normal again. What do you say to them?
I think that we have to ask what was broken in this country that got Donald Trump elected to begin with. And I think anyone who is saying in this presidential primary, all we need is business as usual. We just need an America that was like it was before Donald Trump got elected, is not going to be able to win this election and not going to be able to heal the problems in this country.
Real change, which is what this campaign is about. If you want modest change, if you want to tinker around the edges, there are other candidates you can vote for.
But consider, when it comes to winning over swing voters, who could vote either Democrat or Republican, Iowa Democrats put all the moderates' chances at above 50%, while the progressives are below 50%.
The song that I would urge everyone in politics to remember is a Rolling Stones song. You can't always get what you want.
Ed Rendell is the former governor of Pennsylvania and former mayor of Philadelphia. He's endorsed Joe Biden.
Because what's the second line if you can't always get what you want? If you try sometimes, you just might get what you need. That's it. We don't need the most progressive Democrat to be president. We need someone who is progressive compared to the crew that's in there now.
So a funny thing happened as we asked the so-called moderates about their opponents. They all wanted to claim the progressive label.
I'm trying to make sure everybody can get health care.
Like Pete Buttigieg, with his Medicare for All Who Want It plan, which leaves private health insurance in place.
In the debate the other night here in Iowa, you said the boldness of a plan should not be measured by the number of people it alienates. What did you mean there?
Well, for example, if somebody characterizes my health care plan as small, I got to remind them that this would be the biggest thing we've done to American healthcare in a half century. So when somebody says it's not bold, it makes me wonder, are you defining boldness by something other than the impact it's going to have in our lives, not how much controversy can it generate online?
I think that maybe you should build a bridge instead of blowing one up.
Amy Klobuchar is selling herself as a pragmatist.
A lot of pundits break the race down as saying they're progressives and they're moderates. Do you feel like that's a fair way of putting it? Do you think it's policy differences, temperament differences?
I do not.
You do not?
Because I think that if you're progressive, you have to make progress. And I am the one that, again, that brings the receipts versus some of my opponents up there on the stage. I'm the one that's passed over 100 bills.
We're going to need a president who can bring us together on day one. Thank you, sir.
Joe Biden is running hard on electability.
But do you think that some of the other candidates who've taken more progressive stands that may not be as appealing to liberal Republicans and independents, will be able to win in November?
Look, one of the things that I reject the notion that they're the most progressive plans. I promise you, if my position on climate change, on health care, on immigration, on education, in fact, were to come to fruition, your son's going to be writing about that Biden administration, one of the most progressive administrations in American history. Look, I think the first thing we have to do to win, and I'm not being a wise guy when I say this, you got to be authentic. You got to tell people the truth. And the idea that a couple of the candidates said, well, I'm not going to say how much Medicare for All is going to cost because it's too complicated. Say that again?
Maybe, just maybe, after 100 years of talk about the need for health care for all, maybe it's time to stand up to the healthcare industry and actually accomplish it.
Here's how activist Waleed Shahid sees it.
I think one of the biggest achievements of the progressive movement of the past 10 years is that whoever the nominee is will be the most progressive candidate ever nominated, perhaps since maybe LBJ or FDR, in terms of their dedication to, record levels of government investment and promoting health care and jobs and tackling the climate crisis, things like that.
We have an opportunity to broaden this coalition to get as many people as possible in this effort. Look, you don't have to be a diehard Democrat to see what's wrong with the Trump presidency.
I've always been labeled a liberal Democrat. I refuse to accept the label that the proposals I have and some others have are not significantly progressive compared to where we are.
I thought you were labeled a sensible center, if I remember correctly from my childhood when you ran for office when I was in 8th grade.
Well, I wish that were true. If you notice, they ran against me as Biden's a flaming liberal. And
are you a flaming liberal?
No, I think I'm a traditional Democratic liberal.
I think that I dream big. And I think part of dreaming big is actually getting things done. And I think that is where the citizens are right now.
I believe that the way we're going to win is to shake the table. It's to look at this differently, and it's to be absolutely clear about who we're fighting for and what we're fighting for.
At the end of the day, Ed Rendell says it all comes down to one thing.
How much does a wildly enthusiastic vote for president count? One vote. How much does a tepidly enthusiastic vote for president count? One vote. Come on out, you gotta vote. You gotta vote.